Good evening, everyone. Yes, thanks for joining this call. And yes, we are, discussing a lot of initiatives. What all, things that we will do. But before we get back to office, that is what we are now calling up and post this lockdown. The first checkpoint is our drivers. I think that is the one point that we should uh, be worried about, because if the wheels don't turn, I don't think so. Now we'll be able to get our employees back in office. So the strategy that we have built around for ourselves is largely around. It starts from the drivers, the vehicle that will ferry our employees, and given the fact there are good many law enforcements which will come across to have a minimum number of head count traveling in the cars. The kind of 30% is what most of the state governments and the police are talking of, to maintain the social distancing. uh, that is the one area part of the operation that we will be more focused on. And second, there are do's and don'ts and the precautionary measures that we are already started talking to our employees. It's been a week now, and the communication channels are many, and of course uh, the text messages, the emails, some kind of a notification that we've been sending across. And thanks to MoveInSync technology, those pop-up messages are going every now and then, to make our employees aware what they need to be, they need to be prepared for before they come to office. For example, there are simple steps. You should always wear a mask. You should get yourself tested. Probably you are in a green zone, and so forth. That's the second step of our strategy. The third is, how are we taking care of the facilities once the employees are in office. So again, the social distancing is going to be there. We will be ensuring that not much of a crowd is created in most of the common places that we are talking of. And any type of support, any type, any symptoms of such kind of issue that we have been dealing with. Although we don't know what we are dealing with, but then there are few symptoms that that everyone is talking about. Immediate help to our employees, and back to their families as well. So that's on a larger levels that we are talking of. uh, and yes, we'll be going slow. That's the message. We are not in a hurry to go back to our offices and start working, but then those lot will be the business critical ones.
I really like to understand from both Nitin and Ruchir a couple of things and others. There are several practitioners from companies across India, across the world. And Ruchir, thank you, and Nitin, thank you for at least to the best of your effort. Like so candidly, you all mentioned that you all are trying to do. It's like all of us are blind men and the elephant, trying to figure out how we grapple with this situation. So there is complete regard that everyone's trying to do their best. Um, on that, I mean, just in terms of you said 50%, and issues in terms of course, the kind of businesses that both of you all run are very different in certain cases, right? But where do you see that going? I mean, do you see this 24/7 operation wherever you all had it? Do you see restriction of shifts? Is there, if you had, say, 20 shifts before or 15 shifts before, are these going to come down to, or even if not for your companies, how do you see that working across the industry in terms of that being reduced, time phasing between shifts, between people getting out of the office and new set of people getting in? Richard, you spoke about the entire sanitization of all common areas before people come in and come out. I mean, you spoke about steam cleaning of cars and all of that. But I'm saying it's not just the cars, it's about everything that people walk in and touch and, experience. So just would like to understand, whenever during this conversation, on how do you see that panning, that if you are a 10,000, 20,000 man organization, and that many people were coming into office, and even if you say now instead of 20,000, only 10,000 will come in, what will be the pattern of those 10,000 people coming in, or 5,000 people coming in? And that's important to know, because transportation is required to get them in. I think, and also some of y'all relied on employees to make their way to the office using public transportation. In this new normal, what would be the stance that companies would take? From our perspective, as a service provider, I think this is probably the toughest time that we've seen. To say it mildly, I think the shit has hit the ceiling. In the sense that there is no guidance. Right? We don't know when the world will start using that. And I think if we all knew whether if it was a problem for a month or month and a half, I think we would be prepared for it. But because of the fact that the uncertainty is whether, hey, will this go on till July? Will this go on till August? Will this go on till September? When will this be a hockey stick? Will it be a W curve? I don't know. I'm just, I can make spreadsheets that have scenarios, but beyond that, and I'm sure all of y'all are doing the same. But I'm sure all of our spreadsheets differ from each other, right? I think Nitan mentioned it in the onset. It's about drivers. I think we've, at least from our perspective, we've been in touch with them. We've been, paying them for whatever period of time. Of course, we can pay them for April, we can pay them for May, but anything beyond that is going to be a serious impact in terms of how long and to what outcome. Right? In terms of the cars and infrastructure, I think that is easier to solve. Cleaning of the cars is easier thing to do, because it's a different kind of cleaning. Yes, it requires infrastructure, it requires cash, it requires provisioning of services, but that is easier to do. I think the tougher thing to do is to make people sit in it and make them confident that this vehicle has been cleaned, right? Irrespective of whether you have a sticker, you have, you have app, you have whatever. I think it's just building the confidence back in the system to say, whether it's the driver, whether it's the co-passenger, whether it is whatever, right? Especially cars that are used across clients and all of that, which I'm sure 3/4 or 90% of the industry is like that. You can at least control people within one organization, right? When you start doing contact tracing across 15 other companies, then you have a serious issue, right? How are you going to do all of that? Some things, yes, together we will solve, and infrastructure, sanitization. In my opinion, those are just simpler things to do. I think the tougher things are going to be communication. The tougher things are going to be the pattern and how it changes. I think we have made provisions even from a W curve perspective. And I think all of your organizations would probably, the corporates would have actually done that, because I think one of the reasons why Ruchir is really, and Adobe is really not wanting to be the first mover is to reduce the threat of the second wave or the W, right? And therefore, just want to hear, all of your thoughts. It is incredibly tough on not just lithium, I believe, but on all transporters. We have absolutely no guidance on revenue.
Sanitization, checking your own employees, taking care of their health, ensuring that they are not affected by this COVID by themselves. So all that is possible, and that is very, very important. So we have internally issued some guidelines as an organization. Also, we are working on it. Government also, we are working with government also to come up with some standard practice, because all over the country it should be the same. Otherwise, if state-wise they come with guidelines, then there will be a serious trouble. What is more challenging today is, as again, like Sanjay said, that how do you plan your travel?
Yeah.
So particularly for IT companies, it is so complex, because you have 12 shifts, 13 shifts, 15 shifts. getting those people, then changing cars, then sanitizing those cars. So it is going to be serious challenging. Before this COVID, I thought that scheduling of public transport, particularly in city buses, is the toughest job to do. But now this looks tougher than that, because you need to, companies need to take care of their workstations, their canteen, there are so many things, and depending on that, they will schedule their employees. And then as per their scheduling, we'll have to provide them vehicles. This is about IT. But when it comes to manufacturing, what I believe that in IT, probably they can shift some of their people for work from home. So they could manage somehow. So if you have 100 employees and if your scheduling is allowing you to have accommodation for a particular time only for say 30 employees, you can stagger the shift. You can say 50%, 30%, whatever is that percentage of people may work from home. They will find out some way through technology. That is true for some of the service industries as well. But when it comes to manufacturing, it is going to be very, very tough. Because manufacturing, everybody will have to be there. And if some companies are already working on 3 shifts, then working in already 3 shifts and coming down to 1/3 the strength is going to be very seriously challenging. If some companies are working 1 shift or 2 shift, they can always add 3rd shift and then they can use those workers in 3 shifts. But they don't have enough budgets also. So once this fear of, first fear of corona goes away, then economic fear is going to crop in. And then companies will start thinking about their costs. And when they start thinking about their costs, so today, suppose if we are providing some 100 buses for some companies, whether they will afford those 200 buses? That is question number 1. Second question is, since they do not have any opportunity for people to work from home, they will have to bring everybody in, and they would like everybody to come into a secured environment. So as Ruchi rightly said, that public transport, people would not prefer their employees to come by public transport. So again, those employees bringing them by own vehicles, by buses or whatever, that will add up to their costs. Hopefully, employees should be willing to share that cost. I don't know how it would happen, but everybody will have to take some haircut, including employees. Employees cannot remain outside that economic considerations. So in transportation, I believe that not only companies will spend more, but employees also will have to shell out some money.
Firstly, I think I agree with all the panelists that we had that this is unprecedented. This is a situation that nobody has really faced. I know I've been a part of the industry on the other side. SaaS is the closest that I can come to where we face this challenge, but the challenges were not as severe as we are talking about. I think so. It's a very different one, and obviously the strategy that whatever you want to use is an evolving strategy. There is no ready-made strategy that work for everybody. I think what is kind of very clear is that there are some non-negotiable that things will happen, whether it's the driver front, whether it's on the employee front, whether it's a vehicle that people are transporting, whether it is the social norms that have to be maintained, and the policies from time to time that the government will come and apply and allow people to actually use as norms for going forward. So as far as we are concerned, I think we have looked at this, if we look at all the parameters, if you will, and I don't think we have a solution for everything, but I think since we are evolving and thinking as to how we want to manage the challenge, we actually looked at from a client point of view, and all the things that were being discussed here, the cost element associated with it, how are we going to plan shifts, how many people are going to be there, how are we going to do making sure that, we get the right people. I think one of the bigger problems that we probably haven't discussed, and perhaps both Prasanna and Sanjay may be aware of it, that, the availability of vehicle itself is a challenge, right? In the sense that, when you take a look at each city, when we started looking at Hyderabad and Bangalore as 2 cities from where if we were to get people to the drivers and the driver partners to back into work, we realized that only about 50% of the people are available who are in the green zone, which means that 50% supply till things change, is not going to be available to us. So that's another constraint that we will have to work with. The other constraint that we have to think about is that, currently, if you take a look at pre-COVID, almost about 75 to 80% of vehicles which are used to transport people are sedans, and the big vehicles are the balance 20% or 20-25%. Now this is going to be flipped over, because sedans are going to be very expensive to run, because one person per car versus maybe 5 to 6 people in a 12-seater would be a much more effective scenario for many other companies. So I think that's something we need to figure out, that what is the fleet mix going to be? How are we going to make sure that we can't insulate the customer from price increase or cost increase per person, even if it is not a base variable cost increase. But I think that's something that we are working towards, making sure that we are able to create that supply side from our side. We already talked about I would say about 3,000 odd if you will, drivers and partners, through partners, to look at what the supply side is going to be for us. I think it's an evolving number. We are still trying to figure that out. The other thing that I think we've been thinking about, obviously, again, strategies are something that you can't implement from day one. They have to be fine-tuned, honed in, and improved before you can say that this strategy will actually work. We will looking at how do we make sure that we best utilize the fleet which is available, because everybody is going to go for bigger vehicle. How do we make sure that the fleet that we have available in a particular area is best used by our customers? One, it does not help. It allows them to use the fleet at what they want. And second is, it does not allow a cost escalation to happen. So we've been thinking about similarly situated customers in a particular geography. Can we look at I don't know if how many companies are going to go to 24/7, but my sense is most of the companies are probably starting with regular day shifts and then perhaps extending as to how things go. Can we take a look at how these vehicles can be used in a similarly situated customers for a 12-hour period? Can we share the fleet? Can we share various other things, so that we can provide those services? And wherever there are gaps, there are companies like Bounce, there are companies like other which are available. Can we help fulfill that supply from our side as a part of our overall service to our customers, if you will? So those are some of the things. Then I don't want to talk too much about safety, security. I think that's a given, both at workplace as well as at other places, that this has to fall into place. What we've also done is we created new SOPs, if you will, that we have shared with our customers on as to what will COVID mean and how are we preparing ourselves, and what is it that, it's going to be a collaborative process, right? I mean, service delivery has different components and different stakeholders. We just need to make sure that we are able to bring it all together as a part of our delivery to customers. So I think the SOPs have been created for the customer when they look at going back with service. What is it that they need to be looking at? We are creating a similar thing for our partners in business, and from the supply side, not everybody has the same understanding. How do we? Somebody was talking about standardization from a point of view. I think we are trying to make an effort that we are able to standardize through SOPs a mechanism that can be used by the industry, right? Both as partners as well as our customers. And then obviously Vijay will talk a little bit about the technology enhancements that we have done to make sure that we are able to address the COVID-19 challenge that we have.
I think technology would evolve like before. I think so far, if we've been able to make ourselves effective, it is only because of technology, because we had the equipment to leverage the technology. And I'm saying both from the facility standpoint as well as the transport standpoint. As of today, if we speak and talking about transport, that whenever we go to revive, I think our biggest strengths would be products like MoveInSync and partners like Lithium, wherein our confidence to communicate and our confidence to implement certain protocols will be far much more effective as compared to working with anybody else in the past. These are evolving technologies, but sanitization would change as an India would change as a country who has never believed in sanitization apart from their own houses. available across on the streets to public transport for that matter.
If Nitan's and everyone's this whole financial year, the next, like I said, we can bankroll 1 month, we can bankroll 45 days, bankroll 60 days. It goes continuously. If this curve doesn't pick up, and I don't think it's going to pick up, you're going to see a lot of bankruptcies. You're going to see a lot of repossessions. Whatever knowledge or in terms of capacity, those 3,000 vehicles that you will have a count of today are going to come down to 25%.
I think for IT companies, which I would like to suggest is, we have actually long back designed a bus which can act as an office on wheels. And the moment person enters into the bus, you can convert that into his attendance. So once he logs into, so 1 hour going, 1 hour coming. So you need not have 8-hour shifts in that case. You can have 6-hour shifts. So instead of having 3 shifts in 24 hours, you can have 4 shifts in 24 hours. So you can utilize your assets in terms of office space better. And on the other side, people will also utilize their time rather than wasting their time on more productive things to do. So that is one of the change, I think, which is very much required. Second is, rather than, I would not say competing, but collaboration is more important. I see at many places, different companies collect people in the same premises by different vehicles. So if they collaborate and then they come by same vehicle, then in less number of vehicles, companies can manage. And particularly in one cluster, there are literally hundreds of companies. So those hundreds of companies, if they opt for some common mobility, then that would certainly reduce some demand and utilize whatever capacities we have in better fashion. And for that, we would require certain kind of technology, because it's a kind of a bus bookings, right? So you'll have to book a seat, you have to go, then it is allocation of seats. So it would require different kind of technology, and which is not available today. So for MoveInSync, probably that is the best.
It is available now with
today.
MoveInSync, I can tell you that. So let me just bring in Ambrish here and tell you, Ambrish, how do you see now with some of the features that we have built, and I'm going to quickly bring in Vinay after you, with regard to the contactless sign-in. Do you think these are the features which will help the customers to bring in more confidence among their employees and give them that sense of security? And also the communication geography wise, which we have been talking about, and that is the key to whether it is India or South Africa or anywhere, we have the problem is with the communication reaching out to a specific audience.
Hi everyone, thanks Manish, and very valuable points brought here by everyone. I think technology would play a key role in the challenges that we are seeing in the normal world that we are in today. And like the panelists highlighted, it's still very uncertain when we are going to get out of them, and it's going to be an evolving situation. We as a technology company are committed to responding to those challenges as we come across them. We completely agree. I think the most important challenge is the information flow, ensuring that the information flow is happening. Yes, technology is going to be a means to an end. It's not going to be the magic wand which will solve the problem. Fear psychosis, a lot of factors are going to be at play here. How the drivers are going to come back. But what MoveInSync is committed to is to ensure that we are addressing the problems that we come across. These are the set of solutions that, at looking at the current scenario, MoveInSync is started to address. So what we are trying to do is, in order to ensure that the employees, when they start coming back to office, they have a safe environment, their families are safe, the driver community is safe when they are traveling, when they are doing the duty, the support staff, the housekeeping. We are trying to enable the technology which would ensure the safety for everyone out there, while trying to bring everyone back to office so the economy can be kickstarted again, and the cure does not become worse than the disease to some extent. Right. So ensuring social distancing would be a very key factor over there. Safe travel, a point that's highlighted multiple times. How do we ensure that the safe travel is happening? How do we inspire confidence in the employees that it's happening? How do we make this information more transparent? Another factor that we see is this is an evolving situation. There is a lot of communication distribution gap that we identify right now. Each city is identifying the red zones differently. Mumbai is announcing it apartment by apartment. Bangalore, Chennai apartment defining it by wards. So, and every day there is no new information flowing in. How do we ensure that all that information is flowing through? That those are some of the challenges that we look at. What we're looking at technology, we are trying to solve the problem from a 360-degree point of view, right from um, finding out which all employees or which all drivers can travel, uh, which employees or drivers are in red zone or a green zone, who can come to office, then be able to ensure that if you have a staggered approach to coming to office, how do you ensure which employees are coming on which date, who is allowed to come, who is not allowed to come, so you're not violating the social distancing norms that you have put in place. And again, something that Nitan touched upon earlier, communication to the employees based on this information would be a key factor. How you would broadcast that information to the employees to inspire confidence, to reach out to them with critical information, be it for transportation needs or be it for some other need. So transportation employees or non-transportation employees, how you can segment them, find out, for example, set of employees who are living around an area, how you can communicate with them. uh, Contactless sign, which is again in the purview of transportation, uh, ensuring that contact between the driver and the employees or employees with other employees is minimized and everyone is kept safe. So contactless technologies start becoming a new norm for us, while still maintaining solving challenges for ensuring auditability, ensuring transparency, ensuring uh, that uh, there is no security risk in terms of fraudulent transactions or identity thefts. EHS for sanitized cabs, like we mentioned, ensuring that that communication, the checklists are there, how we are ensuring that the cabs are being sanitized, the drivers have got the Arogya Setu app installed, drivers do not have a fever and are wearing masks. The very first thing that we are doing is that I wanted to announce is, so it's not just for our customers that we are working with. We as MoveInSync are collecting this information from across various government bodies, and we are bringing in that transparency. Like Nitan highlighted, it's very tough to find out right now whether you belong to a red zone or not, even as a general citizen. And what we are building is a website that will be available by tomorrow, which is directed towards anyone in the cities that we operate in, to be able to find out who, whether they live in red zone, what is the, when is the red zone expected to be lifted, any information like that, what are the guidelines, if they belong to a particular zone, what are the things that they can do or not do. So what we are trying to do is bring in that transparency for everyone out there. And as a general citizen, I'm also particularly affected by this. It's not just about the office commute, but in terms of any decisions that I need to make. I mean, I'm putting others at risk if I'm not aware of what potential risk I carry. So in the same line, to the same tune, again, finding the information of which employees for an organization are in red zone, or which drivers that they are engaged with are in the red zone right now. That's something that we are working very actively on. So this is a list which is available. We are geotagging based on the geotags of the employees and the ward boundaries or the locality red zone boundaries that we are creating. We are able to find out which employees belong to which zone. And similarly, we are creating, like Amrish mentioned earlier, we are creating pool of drivers who belong to the green zone. So we are able to facilitate organizations to cross-utilize those same drivers as the supply become more constrained. Uh, Again, we are, in order to ensure that our organizations which are using um, uh, our solution are getting enabled to visualize where all the red zone maps are in the city on every map view that we provide, be it the routes that the cab is expected to take, be it the employee profile, be it security, or be it cab tracking in real time. So every information, the red zones are available for information to be captured. What MoveInSync additionally is doing in order to mitigate this risk is once we have identified employees who are scheduled to travel and belong to red zone, we are sending out auto emails to those employees, their team box, the transport team, that this employee lies in a red zone and is scheduled to travel. Would you like to take an action in order to ensure the safety of the other employees and other staff, including the drivers? The second option that we are proposing is essentially an auto removal, which addresses, because employees may not be aware that they are in a red zone now, and similarly they may not be aware when they move from red zone to a green zone. So we are trying to ensure that the employees get this information, and the actions are taken against that automatically, so that an employee who may be living in a red zone now and is a potential risk to the drivers and other employees, we are addressing those. Again, another very key factor, what would be the key to solving the COVID problem would be ability to communicate with the employees. So it's about finding which employees I want to communicate with. So you could, for example, want to find out all the employees who are living around a particular area or living in a particular area, and you want to communicate to them, or employees you have identified as BCP employees, the mission critical employees. Any criteria that you may have, employees who are scheduled to travel tomorrow, communicating to them, inspiring confidence that yes, we are addressing, the office has been cleaned up, sanitized. Information around uh, information sharing in a reliable manner is something that we are looking at. Contactless sign-in, like we mentioned, we are trying to ensure that the drivers and the employees do not need to interact with the same device, so that they are not exposing each other to the risks. And to that effect, OTP-based sign-in, and while at the same time, we need to ensure that drivers and employees are being tracked on the security command center or other tracking mechanisms, so you are able to ensure the security of the employees and the drivers while they are on the road. In order to do that, we have introduced the concepts of OTP-based sign-in and contactless sign-in, wherein we are leveraging technology to determine when the cab driver and the employee app are in close proximity, and enabling employees to sign in at that time, ensuring that they are the risk is minimized while we are still able to track them. The next option that we have is very critical, which is around preparing a checklist where you can have questions like, is the driver wearing masks? Is the driver, does the driver have Arogya Setu app installed? Is the cab sanitized? At what date and time was it sanitized? Automatically marking these cabs and drivers as non-compliant. So you are able to ensure that they are not able to do a duty until and unless they have been sanitized and at a lower risk. Another key factor that we are bringing in is a red zone entry alert. So anytime a cab enters a red zone, the offline map is available right there on the driver's application. So anytime a driver is navigating to an employee's location or to going in a trip, driver will be guided not to enter the red zones. The red zones will be displayed on the Google Map on their app. If they accidentally enter the red zone, an alarm will play, and similarly a security dashboard alarm will play. So you can take actions like ensuring that the cab is sanitized with harsher chemicals in order to ensure that the cab is safe for everyone to travel in. We are also implementing features around social distancing, ensuring that your employees, you are able to bring in your employees in a staggered manner, identify mission critical employees, and have strategies around how to bring them to office.
There's a lot has been said about this, but I believe this adversity like this is going to bring about a new transformation in the way the overall industry works. I think there's a lot of collaboration across across the different stakeholders that will bring it up. That'll bring us all together to form the new norm of office commute, if you will. I think I'll just leave it at that.
I think these are the reasons why people would want to get back to office, because technology would not always work at home. And this is a prime example. Till such time people trickle back to the offices, I think we all need to go slow. there will never be a right solution to deal with the situation that we are in right now. I think our take would be that leverage on technology and keep communicating with the employees and wait for the best solution. The COVID virus or this thing is here to stay for the next couple of years. To my mind, employees will not get back to work so easily because the schools will not open up. The red zones, the green zones, when the kids don't go to school, we will not go to the offices, believe you me. And if that was to happen, we have to get used to working with limited technology at our homes, keep communicating with the employees, ensure that whenever they get back and whenever they're ready to get back, we are in their prime state of hygiene and sanitization. All our employees, all our drivers, all our vendor partners, and we've got systems and procedures in place that when people are in the office, we are prescriptive and we are descriptive to the employees. People follow what we tell them to follow in the offices, not like their homes. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. I think the panel has been, I couldn't convince you to get me on the panel. I loved the panel with Nitin and Ruchir giving a perspective from an employer point of view. They want to take it slow. Sanjay, Prasanna and Amrish representing the supply point of view, very, very important. And especially Prasanna's viewpoint that I think while IT and ITES, some of us can work from home, whatever, along with washing dishes. I think manufacturing, surely you can't run machines from home. So I think that's an important necessity, also necessity for the economy to run. I remember as a company, obviously, we've been tracking the work from home on an everyday basis. So from 12th of March, a day after Holi, to 20th of March, in 10 days, India's work from home increased from 10% to 95%. So I think within 10 days, the entire country started working from home. And what I hear from the panel and all my views by talking to people across the countries, I think people are surely looking at a slow comeback, probably between 3 to 6 months. So, and I think in these 3 to 6 months and later, as the panel discussed, we really have to think out of the box. Should it be a 4-seater while the government has put 33%, but I think eventually the cost will come in play. Is it, how do we modify our cabs? How do we use buses? How do we walk to the office, etc.? I think that is very important. And my only counterpoint is that I think while technology will be there to make work from home permanent, as Nitin was saying that as a company they would like to see a new normal. I feel it is not the technology which will make or break it. It is actually we as human beings, as social creatures, where eventually we want to go and work. Right now, our productivities are all very high because obviously we have nothing else to do at home but just work or maybe wash or clean, very, very basic stuff. But I think eventually in a normal, I think people will be more productive in the office. I think time will tell how much percentage moves to work from home to commute. I think that remains to be seen. But what is very, very important is that how do we focus and make sure that while we provide safety, the commute does take place after the 3rd of May and the lockdown gets lifted. So I think it was a great panel and a great show. Just a last comment that a very few of, so some of the feedback and our knowledge which we've collected from internal as well as outside, we've put together in a small handbook called as the Commute to Office COVID Handbook, which is available on the website. Would encourage you guys to have a look at it and do send your comments. Really appreciate, I think this was because of a scenario like this, we had 250 people across the world listening to this. So thank you so much.